Three Navy SEALs halted in the middle of a crowded sidewalk. Then without a word, they snapped to attention and saluted. A homeless man in a weathered coat, his boots duct-taped and eyes closed. People stopped. Cars honked. Phones recorded. No one understood what they were seeing. And when the truth came out, the whole nation had to look twice. It began on a Tuesday. The sidewalks were crowded like always. Office workers rushed by with coffee in one hand and their eyes glued to their phones. Horns blared. A hot dog vendor yelled at a biker, "Just another city morning, loud, fast, forgettable," until they appeared. Three men in Navy service uniforms, clean-cut, sharp, unmistakably SEALs, walked down the street shoulder to shoulder. Strong, silent, focused. Then they stopped. Without a word, all three turned toward a bench tucked beneath a bare tree. Sitting there, barely noticed by anyone, was an old man wrapped in a gray military blanket. His beard was white and wild. His coat had more patches than fabric. One boot was duct-taped. His head hung low as if he hadn't lifted it in days. And yet the three men snapped to attention, raised their right hands, and saluted. The world didn't slow down. It slammed to a halt. A bus nearly missed the light. A cyclist skidded sideways. A mother pulled her child close. People looked, then stared. Phones came out. Some recorded, others just watched, breath caught in their throats. For a moment, no one dared speak, not even the wind. The old man didn't move. He didn't return the salute, didn't lift his head, didn't blink. But the SEALs held their position like a silent guard of honor. Their faces betrayed something: respect, yes, but also awe. Like they were looking at a legend or a ghost. A boy in a Spider-Man hoodie whispered, "Mom, who is he?" The mother blinked hard. I don't know." An elderly black man in a cap bearing the Vietnam ribbon stepped closer. Then slowly, deliberately, he saluted too. A ripple moved through the crowd, and a question began to form in every mind. Who was he? The videos hit the internet within minutes. Some thought it was staged. Others said the SEALs were playing a prank. But the body language was too real, the stillness too sacred. There was something more here, something hidden. And one-man Lieutenant Marcus Daniels knew it, because he was one of the three. That night, while the world speculated, Daniels sat alone in his apartment, staring at a freeze frame of the old man's face. It haunted him. He'd seen that look before, not in the present, but in stories, in silence, in the eyes of veterans who had survived hell and came back carrying ghosts. Daniels couldn't sleep. He kept replaying the moment, the way his instincts had kicked in, the feeling deep in his bones that he was standing in front of something sacred. So he zoomed in on the man's bag, and that's when he saw it, a faded patch, torn, barely visible, but unmistakable. SOG, Mac V, 1969. Daniel sat back, his stomach tightened. Very few people today even knew what that meant, and those who did, didn't talk about it. Daniels knew the name. He'd heard it once in a late-night training briefing, whispered like a ghost story. SOG, Studies and Observations Group, unofficial, classified, denied. They weren't just special forces. They were beyond that. Black operations, deep infiltration, missions that never made it into history books, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia territories where American soldiers weren't supposed to be. Men who survived didn't speak. Men who didn't vanish completely. Daniels leaned in toward the screen. The patch was worn, but the outline was unmistakable. Only one kind of man would still be carrying that insignia. He opened a secure laptop, logged into the archives, then deeper into the redacted zone. There were only fragments, names blacked out, faces blurred, mission reports with whole pages missing. But one image, grainy, washed out, froze him. A squad, kneeling in the jungle. 3 men were smiling, 2 were staring off camera, and one stood at the edge of the photo, tall, serious, barely in frame, his hand on another soldier's shoulder. Daniel zoomed in. The man's face was younger but unmistakable. That same steel jaw, that same hollow stare. It was him. The name was redacted, but a note beside the image read, "Last seen, Operation Iron Ghost." No formal debrief. Daniel's heart beat harder. He pulled out his phone, replayed the sidewalk video again. The man hadn't moved, hadn't even acknowledged them. But it wasn't dementia. It wasn't confusion. It was something else, something deeper, like a soldier still stuck on watch. The next morning, Daniels returned to the bench. The old man was still there. Same spot, same posture. A small flock of pigeons circled his boots. Daniels approached slowly. He knelt, quietly. "Sir, do you remember me?" No response. Daniels placed the faded photo from the archive onto the bench beside him. Still nothing. Then a twitch, just a flicker in the eyes. The old man didn't look at the picture. He stared forward, through people, through time. "They said you were dead," Daniel said softly. No records, no honors. Just silence. The old man's lips parted, cracked, dry. Then he whispered, "That was the point." Daniels felt a chill crawl up his back. The voice wasn't broken. It was sharp, controlled. Not a drifter, not lost. This man had been trained to disappear. Daniels reached into his pocket, pulled out his own challenge coin, a token only SEALs carried. He placed it in the man's palm. "You saved lives. You gave your years. We owe you." The old man closed his hand around it. Not tightly, not with emotion, just deliberately. Then he said, "They told me to vanish. I did." Daniels tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. He'd trained for 100 combat scenarios, but not for this. Not for sitting face to face with a ghost who bled for a country that erased him. By evening, the internet had moved on. The video now shared space with memes, gossip, and distractions. But among a certain group, quiet, aging, and scattered across the country, it was the only thing that mattered. Men who hadn't spoken in decades began calling each other, sending screenshots, comparing timestamps. "Is that him? Did you see the patch? No way he's still alive." One by one, stories emerged, not from officials, but from the shadows. Stories of a man who pulled 3 wounded soldiers through enemy lines with both legs shot, of a ghost who sabotaged a convoy and disappeared before backup arrived, of a voice crackling over radio static saying, "Get them out, I'll hold the line." Daniels knew this wasn't over. There were too many questions, too much silence. He reached out to a journalist, Emma Graves, known for chasing impossible stories, the kind no one else dared publish. At first she laughed. "A ghost SEAL. Come on, Lieutenant. I do real journalism." Then he showed her the photo, then the video, then the patch. And the next day she called back. "You're right," she said. "There's something here. And if I dig, someone's going to get nervous." Daniels exhaled slowly. Good. Emma Graves was good at digging. And more importantly, she didn't scare easy. She started with military archives, got nowhere. She called the Pentagon, got transferred, then disconnected. She asked to speak to a public affairs officer. They told her there's nothing to comment on. So she did what real journalists do. She knocked on doors. In a dusty VFW post outside Baltimore, an old Marine handed her a beer and said, "If he's who you think he is, you're not ready for the answers." She didn't blink. He handed her a worn cassette tape. No name on it. No date. But that voice, I never forgot it. Back in her apartment, Emma hooked up an old cassette player. The audio hissed. Then came a voice calm, commanding, relentless. "Flank right. Charlie's pushing on the ridge. Get Doc to cover. I'll draw fire." Gunfire. Screaming. Then silence. Then the voice again. "This is Ghost Actual. Package moving. I repeat, moving. Get them out now. Emma sat frozen. She'd heard plenty of battlefield recordings before. This wasn't one of them. This wasn't chaos. This was surgical, cold, like someone who'd made peace with death and chose to walk into it. The next morning, Emma met Daniels again. She didn't ask questions this time. She simply placed the tape on the table. He didn't speak, just nodded slowly. Then he reached into his jacket and handed her something else. A photo, newer, grainy, a recent shot of the old man taken from a street cam. On the back was a scribbled note, James J.D. Cross KIA, April 7th, 1970, Operation Iron Ghost. Emma frowned. KIA. You're telling me he's officially dead? Daniels nodded. 55 years ago. They found him again 3 days later. Same bench, same posture, same silence. This time he was staring into space, but there was something different. His coat was freshly washed. Someone had cut his hair. Next to him sat a single white rose in a glass bottle. Emma approached carefully. Mr. Cross, she asked. He didn't look at her, but his hand shifted slightly toward a small box by his side. She picked it up. Inside the original SOG patch, a rusted Zippo, a black and white photo of 13 soldiers standing in front of a chopper, and a single bullet wrapped in cloth. Emma felt her throat tighten. I think people deserve to know who you are. His eyes finally met hers. Sharp, clear, sober. No, he said. They deserve to forget. But the world wouldn't let it go. The sidewalk video was still spreading. On veteran forums and private military chats, even in the inboxes of retired intelligence officers, a rumor surfaced that James Cross had once saved a general's son during a mission so deep the military denied it ever happened, that he'd been left behind when things went south, written off to protect diplomatic ties, that he'd been told flat out, "You don't exist anymore," and he obeyed for 50 years. Daniels didn't stop digging. He pulled favors, called in markers. Eventually an envelope landed on his desk. No return address, no explanation. Inside, a redacted mission report with just one name unblurred. Cross James D. Status Expendable. Daniels closed the file, and for the first time in years, he felt something burn inside. Shame and rage. Back at the bench, Emma returned for one last conversation. She sat beside Cross in silence, then said, "You could have spoken up, demanded recognition. You deserve it." He didn't look at her. Instead, he pointed toward a child walking with his mother, smiling, safe, free. "I got what I wanted," he said. She blinked. He added, "They're the mission, always were." Emma didn't say another word. It started with a whisper, a single online post titled, "The Man America Forgot." Emma didn't attach her name. She just published the facts, the photo, the patch, the cassette recording. Within hours, veterans across the country began commenting. "He saved my uncle in '69. My father mentioned a ghost actual once. We thought he made it up." I remember that voice. It pulled me out of a hot zone outside Pliku. Then the phone calls started. Daniels heard from a former Green Beret who hadn't spoken to anyone in 15 years, from a medic who swore Cross dragged him a mile through jungle with a shattered femur, from a pilot who said the name Cross was code for "you're not dying today." It wasn't just rumor anymore. It was a flood. And yet Cross stayed silent. He didn't appear in interviews. He didn't ask for medals. He didn't respond to reporters who began camping nearby. But something changed. One day, Daniels found him not on the bench, but standing quietly at a small veteran cemetery just outside town. He was saluting a headstone, not his own, but that of a man Daniels recognized from the faded squad photo Reynolds. Listed KIA 1970. Daniels stood beside him. "Reynolds was your CO." Cross shook his head. "No. He was 19. First deployment. Wanted to be a nurse after. Took the bullet meant for me." He blinked hard. They gave me the silence. Should have been him, they remembered. Daniels made a decision that night. He reached out to a few trusted SEAL contacts. No press, no Pentagon, just men who knew. And they came, dozens of them, from across the country, old, young, active duty, retired. They gathered at the same park, without cameras, without speeches. They stood, they saluted, and Cross for the first time saluted back. But word still leaked, not from Daniels, not from Emma, from someone in the crowd, a Vietnam vet in a wheelchair who quietly called his grandson at the Washington Chronicle. 2 days later, the headline read, "Ghost Actual, the soldier who refused to be remembered." Then the firestorm began. News anchors debated whether he was real. Talk shows speculated if this was just another urban legend. Senators issued statements. The Pentagon declined to comment. Then came the photo taken by someone at the gathering. It showed Cross standing with his hand over his heart, surrounded by Navy SEALs in full uniform. That photo shattered the silence. The president's office requested to meet him. Cross didn't go, so they sent a Representative General Harold Monroe. He found Cross sitting on the same bench. "Mr. Cross," the general said on behalf of a grateful nation. Cross held up his hand. "I'm not here for speeches." The general paused, then said quietly, "I served under a man who died in Laos because someone stayed behind to cover the evac. We never knew who it was. Now I think we do." He handed Cross a folded flag. Cross didn't take it. "Give it to Reynolds," he said. "He earned it." Emma documented it all, not as a story to exploit, but as a truth to preserve. Her next article wasn't published online. It was printed in full in a small veteran newsletter read by less than 10,000 people. At the bottom, a single line read, "He never wanted recognition, but we remembered him anyway." A week later, Cross vanished. No one saw him leave. No note, no bags, just an empty bench, a folded newspaper, and a single coin, Daniel's SEAL Challenge coin, returned. 2 weeks passed. The buzz faded. The media moved on. But the veterans didn't. Across the country, quiet ceremonies began popping up. Not televised, not scripted, just chairs, flags, and names that hadn't been spoken aloud in years. One of those names was James D. Cross. In Washington, D.C., at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, a small, unannounced gathering formed. There was no national broadcast. But those who knew came. Lieutenant Marcus Daniels stood in dress blues. Beside him were the other 2 SEALs from that day on the street. Behind them, rows of veterans, wheelchairs, service dogs, salutes held through trembling hands. At the front was a single plaque. "James J.D. Cross 1969, declared KIA 2025, finally seen." The president did not attend. He sent a statement which was never read, because instead Daniels stepped forward and spoke. He didn't want our thanks. He didn't want medals. He just wanted the mission to succeed. His voice cracked. He was erased from history. But today we write him back in. Then something happened. From across the lawn someone appeared. An old man in a clean-pressed jacket. Boots shined, back straight, hat pulled low. He said nothing, just stood at a distance, raised one hand slowly, and held it over his heart. Daniel saw him. So did the other SEALs. No one moved. No one breathed. Then Daniels lifted his own hand and returned the salute. The others followed, one by one, until every person in that silent circle stood in reverence. By the time the salute lowered, the old man was gone. Later that night, a young boy who had been watching with his grandfather tugged his sleeve. "Grandpa, was he a hero?" The old man smiled softly. "No," he said. "He was something rarer." The boy frowned. Like what the old man looked up at the sky. He was the reason heroes come home. Some say they've seen him since. Outside a hospital, on a train, at Arlington standing alone at dusk. Never stopping, never speaking, just watching, as if still on mission, still making sure someone gets to go home. Because not all heroes need medals. Some just need to be remembered, and James Cross finally was.